surprise, getting into medical school is not very easy, no matter what. And so when you limit yourself to just one school, for whatever reason, that makes things very hard. The Old Premeds Podcast, session number 295. Welcome to the Old Premeds Podcast. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, your host here every week, where I take your questions directly from the non-traditional pre-med discussion over at premedforums.com. If you haven't yet, go create an account and ask your questions there. That's where we pick the questions to be answered here on this podcast. Before we jump into the great question today, I want to talk about the MCAT Minute, brought to you by Blueprint MCAT. If you have not yet done so, please go to blueprintmcat.com, sign up for a free account where you get access to their amazing study planner tool, a half-length diagnostic, a full-length exam, and 1,600 amazing flashcards on a spaced repetition platform just for you. Again, that's blueprintmcat.com. All right, the question today is one from a non-traditional student who's in a nursing degree now and now wants to be a physician. If that sounds like you, or if any part of this sounds like you, hopefully this answer will help you. Our question asker says, my question is, would it be better to wait to take these classes after my ABSN, which is an advanced bachelor or accelerated bachelor's of science of nursing program, or should I take them during the ABSN? I would take them one by one during the ABSN program, but take them two by two afterwards. The classes are Calculus, Physics 1 and 2, and 3 chemistry classes. If you want more background on my situation, read below, but it's pretty long, so I wanted to ask the question first. I love, just a side note, I love when students, bottom line, here's my question. Do I take my Premed Prereqs during my program, my ABSN, or do I take them after? So that's the question, and here's some more background on this student. I'm a non-traditional student, only now just realizing that I have a deep desire to become a doctor. I had no idea what I wanted to do in college, so I got my English degree, a low GPA of 3.2. I was a college athlete on scholarship, and my life was my sport. After college, I married my high school sweetheart who enlisted in the Air Force. 2 years after that, I enlisted in the Air Force because I still had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I got blessed that my job was in the medical world in aerospace physiology, and I had always had a burning desire to become an officer because I loved leadership and the challenges and responsibilities that came with it. My husband and I had our first daughter. I got out of the military and was still trying to figure out what to do with my life as I worked through some graduate classes in theology, thinking that I would be a chaplain officer in the military. Through an even longer story, I became a diehard, all-in Catholic who loves the church but could no longer pursue chaplain officer due to the fact that Catholicism does not ordain females. I still had this drive and this desire to learn and lead and help others, but I had no idea where to start. My husband suggested nursing, and after some research and talking with some good friends who were nurses, I decided to apply to my school's ABSN program, not really feeling the click of it, but thinking it would be a great career. We had our second child, our son, and I got accepted into the nursing program for the summer. Well, after so many doctor and ER visits for both my son and our daughter, something finally clicked, and I started doing more research and asking questions about medical school, and now I am certain that being a doctor is my end goal. Something I never thought I would be smart enough to even pursue. However, I cannot drop out of the nursing program due to a number of factors I won't get into. To apply to the one and only medical school I would be able to attend, that being the University of Uniformed Services, due to family responsibility, i.e. you get a salary as an active duty person as you go to school, I need about 6 classes plus taking the MCAT. My question is, would it be better to wait to take these classes after my ABSN program, or should I take them during the ABSN program? I would take them one by one during the program or 2 by 2 after. So, and we already rehashed the classes, Calculus, Physics 1 and 2, 3 chemistry classes. Thank you so much for the essay. Sorry for the essay. So here's the deal. And something that's very important to understand. number one, I question why there are so few prereqs on that list. A lot of people don't understand that the nursing classes a lot of times don't count as med school prereqs. So for this particular student in her ABSN program, biology is not on this list. Biochemistry is not on this list. If you took biology and biochemistry in the nursing program, you have to make sure that those courses will count as prereqs to the whatever medical school you want to apply to. Now, with that said, if you're shooting for only one medical school, and this is very common for non-traditional students who have responsibilities and a spouse who maybe works in a specific career. I worked with a student a couple years ago whose spouse was in the film industry, and she lived in LA. He was in the film industry, and they had to stay in that area, or at least he did. And so she was very limited with where she could apply to medical school. And that just makes things so much harder because, surprise, getting into medical school is not very easy, no matter what. And so when you limit yourself to just one school, for whatever reason, that makes things very hard. But it also makes things a little bit easier. In this case, this student can reach out to the school directly and say, here are all the courses that I've taken in my ABSN program, in my prior English program. What other courses do I need? And maybe that's the list she came up with, but I wanted to throw out the one caveat that a lot of students get confused who are coming from nursing programs, nursing degrees, saying, well, I took biology for nurses, that counts as a prereq, and usually not. Usually those for nursing, for whatever allied health type programs are out there, those prereqs will not count as prereqs for medical school. So you have to be very, very careful about that. So with that said, knowing that you have one school that you need to get into, that you can only go to, the goal is to be as strong of an applicant as possible. And to be as strong as an applicant as possible, you should get as perfect of the grades as possible. Meaning, you should probably wait until after your ABSN to get those prereqs. Because you're going to have to do well in your ABSN. You're going to have to do well in those prereqs. You don't want to overcomplicate life by taking on too much and make everything harder so that your ABSN grades drop and your prereq grades drop. The goal is to do as well as possible, especially starting off with a 3.2 GPA from your prior undergrad experience. And then obviously on top of doing well in the prereqs and the ABSN, you need to do well on the MCAT. You need to get clinical experience. You need to get shadowing. You need to continue to do more and more and more and more and more here and there and everywhere. You're applying to the Uniformed University Health Services, USIS, and you need to potentially do some volunteer experience. It's great that you have prior military experience. That will definitely come in handy. But maybe they want some more volunteer experience or whatever else specific to that school. So I would recommend waiting to do the prereqs so that you can focus on one thing at a time and don't overwhelm yourself because you're a parent, you're a student, you're a pre-med, you have a lot of stuff going on. So just be careful with all of those requirements and making sure that your priority is getting A's. That should be your priority moving forward. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, for the nurses out there, make sure that the classes that you need, the prereqs for medical schools, if you're planning on using your nursing prereqs, make sure, nursing school classes for the prereqs, make sure that the school is going to accept them because a lot of them won't. Don't forget to check out blueprintmcat.com for amazing free content and products from them by signing up for a free account. Again, blueprintmcat.com. Have a great week. We'll see you next time here on the Old Premeds Podcast.